This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Broomfield, Colorado. I'm here with Engage Executive Groups. Brand new for 2020, they've been helping you build engaged, high-performance teams to increase your revenue. I'm joined by the owner, managing partner. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. I mean, quite honestly, this is a great company to start for 2020. I'm sure you've been told that before, but you've been involved in executive coaching, consulting for prior years before this started. You basically have your education from that of Quantum Leap University. Share with me a little bit how this company got started for you.
Thanks for that question, Gary. The history is Quantum Leap University is really all about helping people at whatever level to really identify their potential and to get the head trash out of the way so that they're really able to realize their fullest potential. And so for the past years, what I've been using is the education from that to build corporate group engagements to work with executive teams and leadership development programs. And the model was a series of group gatherings and one-on-one coaching sessions. Well, with what happened in 2020, the group engagement piece was just not possible. So I decided, all right, I'm going to take this time to write the book that I've wanted to write forever. So I wrote Engage, How to Attract and Inspire a High-Performance Team. And then with that book finished, what dawned on me is there's really a need for kind of a top-down approach to the engagement issue and to take a look at the peer executive coaching model where groups come together, where they get that peer group support as well as some facilitated, moderated expertise. And so I thought, all right, given the current world, do it virtually, do it in a format where the executives still get the benefit of the wisdom of one another. And then with the unique thing that I've got, that realization of, all right, once you've figured out how to do the thing you want to do, how do you get your people to buy in? Because without that really strong engagement, you're really limited.
Hence the name Engage, obviously. I mean, 5 years ago, you were doing some coaching, consulting. This is a service that has always been in demand, really, but why do you think it's even more important today in our work environment?
Well, given the fact that we've got more and more virtual teams, more remote reporting, just things that just make it more challenging to be an effective communicator and to inspire people, we have to be so much more deliberate and have such intentionality about it. And for decades, there's been survey reports about the degree of disengagement that exists in the workplace. And I would just love to help business leaders turn that curve rather than have it get worse given the current climate that we have for businesses to operate in.
You mentioned peer-to-peer. Let's educate the viewers out there. What is basically a peer-to-peer advisory group? What does that mean?
Sure. The idea is you get, say, a dozen people that are at that C or president level, business owners, if that's who's running the show, and they get a chance to work on their business and to talk to others who are in the same kind of situation that they are about the stuff that others might not have a perception or a perspective that is going to get them what they need.
CEOs, business owners out there, I mean, they have the challenge day in and day out of low engagement, employee turnover. I mean, these are things that are not growing their business. This is where you kind of step in and you're able to offer some solutions for them.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And that's the whole point is, if we can get in touch with why did people come to work in the first place? Because people typically start off pretty strong, but then that isn't sustained. And if the leadership understands why the people came to work there in the first place, and they can communicate their vision in a way that it connects with that energy, that motivation that person came with, then it's sustained.
And it is sustained. I mean, do you find with small business owners. I do. It feels like they're great at what they do, but not all of them are set up to have the skills to lead a team. They don't have the skills or even the understanding of what it takes to bring people together and motivate them. Have you found that as well?
Oh, that's absolutely true. And it's really kind of a two-edged sword for that business owner, business leader, because they have that challenge of really feeling like they do have to do everything and know everything, and that they're expected to have that. And then the other challenge there is then, frankly, there's a fear factor. Is if I admit I don't know, or if I actually turn that over to this other person, then what? And to say, you know what, you're better at this than I am, so I'm gonna let you take point, and I'm gonna support you. That just creates such an inspirational workplace, because employees will say, you know, I'm a smart person. They hired me because of what I know, and then they're not taking advantage of that.
Speaking of workplace, the owner, they're working so hard to build this company, yet at the same time, there is a culture that is really growing within those walls. And that culture can be productive or not productive depending on what feed is actually brought to the table. Share with me a little bit about the culture of a company.
Yeah, and in my marketing materials, I compare culture to a garden, and if it's well tended, then you get produce, you get what you're expecting. If you don't, stuff's going to grow, but it might not be what you want, and you'll end up with a weed patch. And you see that in the workplace where the company kind of goes in directions, and the owner, CEO, whomever is looking at the thing, trying to figure out where did this take this turn, and it's because there wasn't enough intentionality put into that nurturing of the culture. And by the way, as soon as I hire someone, it's not my thing anymore, it's our thing.
That is interesting. Pretty safe to say that many of these owners out there, even CEOs, they're not strategic thinkers by nature. Many times, this is something you pride yourself on, being able to identify a problem, go after the solution. Tell me more about that.
Whenever the topic of strategic planning, strategic thinking comes up, I can't tell you how many times I've talked with CEOs, business owners, and I've asked them, so what's your strategic plan? And they'll say some words, and they tend to all kind of sound similar. And I'll say, so if you really boiled that down, could we rephrase that with build stuff, sell stuff? And usually they'll say, yeah, pretty much. Well, that's not much of a strategic plan, and it's certainly not inspirational.
Your experience that you bring to the table, it's more than just the consulting, it's years, be it an Army engineer, be it a consultant for a small business or even a CEO. The ability to diagnose these problems, do you feel you're tapping into your experience throughout the years?
Sure, absolutely. And, when I decided to write the book, my publisher and my editor really encouraged me, write from your personal experience and be very vulnerable, be very open. And so that has been helpful to me, because what I've realized is to say, you know what, it's taken me years to get from where I was trying to do the, my way or the highway kind of command and control, just do it because I'm your boss, to recognizing there's a much more effective way. And a lot of that has come from people that I've observed over the years who just had what seemed like a magic touch, where they could say, let's do, and people would just jump on it. And it didn't take any arm twisting or hard work, because they had done the hard work of really getting in touch with what mattered and why people wanted to really be a part of that team.
I see business owners, CEOs they're in it every day. Nose to the grindstone, if you will. Do you feel that because they're in it, many times they lose sight of the big picture? And is this something that a consultant can come in and give a perspective that maybe they didn't even see before?
Yeah, absolutely. Because for all of us, if it's our thing. I mean, that's why I have advisors and coaches and work with others too for my business, is even though this is what I do, it's hard to have that real objective perspective for your stuff, because like you say, you're so immersed in it all the time that you're seeing that thing that's right here, and maybe you're missing all these other things, many of which might be opportunities. So getting somebody who can come in and say, let's back up a step, explain for me, why is it that we do that? What's the outcome desired? And then to be able to help them kind of unpack whether the thing that they've had their nose to the grindstone trying to do is really serving them for what they hoped it would do.
It's interesting. Let me ask you this. I mean, now more than ever, it seems that companies need to be running a very tight ship. I mean, you're basically able to increase the revenue at a percentage for each employee. That has to really affect the bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. It was interesting as I was doing research for all of this. If you look, for example, what do venture capitalists or IPO experts project versus what typically is accomplished per FTE, full-time equivalent, most companies operate at half of what they're expected to if they want money. And what that told me is, okay, there are ways to get that dialed up because people get money. But is it dial it up through a lot of pressure to get money and then you fall back? Or do you figure out what's kind of that secret sauce to actually get people bought into wanting to do it? And then I'd say, once you figure that out, you have a sustainable high performance team. So, if you're at 120,000 per year per full-time equivalent person, if you can double that and stay there.
The key is to stay there. Like you say, everybody can get lucky one time, figure out some pressure that you can apply, but yet the sustainability. I mean, to do that, there's a certain amount of discovery that you do, finding out what their strengths are, playing on those strengths, and making sure that you're empowering that team so they basically can sustain that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. And really, this is the thing that's a difference in this peer group versus a lot is this process. So for that business leader, for their organization, and then for their key people at a minimum, it's to identify the why, the strengths, and the values. Because you need to have, as the owner of the company, you may really be a little fuzzy on why you're doing all the things you're doing. Sure. And how often do we actually sit down and think about what are our values really? Even our strengths, because I've worked with businesses where they say, well, our industry does X, so we have to do X. But then they're terrible at it. So maybe they need to rethink, well, because everybody else does that, we have to. It's like, why don't you consider partnering with someone that's really excellent at that, and then you can focus on your strengths and be the best at fewer things.
Like you say, when you focus on people's strengths, they realize this company is an our situation, morale goes up, productivity goes up, everything across the board. I mean, you have private sessions you offer, you have workshops, you do public speaking. Really, there's probably a vast array of companies that you can help out there with that business model. Is this something that, like you say, you've done from small businesses all the way to nonprofits, CEOs? Does that make it rewarding for you?
Absolutely does. Even for a couple of years working with federal government agencies and helping with development of senior level people there to go into something that's notorious for being ineffective, and then to meet people that really want to make a difference, and then to be able to help them to really have an impact is so rewarding. And, if it's a small, closely held company, it's personal, because if I can help you, I'm helping your family. And there's just nothing like that, is knowing that you're doing something that has that direct benefit to people.
That is interesting. I mean, how does it start for folks out there? Does this begin with a free consultation? Is it done over the phone? Tell me what they're going to learn to see if you're a good fit.
Right. Step one is a discovery call. It's 15 minutes on the phone. Okay. And frankly, it's a mutual interview, because we need to look at, is this going to make sense for them? Right. And does it fit? I've occasionally had clients where they wanted something, but I really wasn't the right resource for them. And I would much rather figure that out right away and refer them out to somebody that's the thing they really need right now and build a relationship, or just give them the benefit of what I know and then move on. So it starts with that. And then from that first 15 minutes, then if it makes sense, then we spend an hour really looking at that. Is there a good alignment here? Is what we've got to offer really going to deliver? Because I really always encourage clients to revisit their KPIs, their key performance indicators, and all of their objectives and their outcomes and all of that, to make sure that they're really sharp and really well-defined and really measurable, that they're SMART goals, right? And that what we're doing together is going to aid that, where they can say, okay, we're doing this, we implemented that, and that's the return we got on it. And it's going to be different for each business, because their potential is different, their timelines are going to be different, where they are in their maturity as an organization, et cetera. But it's stuff that can and should be defined and measured.
The reason I wanted to tell your story was the fact that I felt you're an individual that really your passion lies in sharing your knowledge, sharing what you've learned from, be it back in the military all the way through, basically writing a book. As an author, you volunteer. Is this your way of giving back?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I have a good friend who was in the construction business for his whole professional career. He's retired now, but the guy works more than anybody I know, and he's living his legacy. And I told him, I said, the way you live is how I want my business to be, and I want to inspire other people to look at living that way. So you're giving back. You're really fulfilling that legacy that you want to leave, but you get to experience it along the way.
And engaging on many levels. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. First of all, on the website, take a look at the products and services they provide for you. But really the best way is to contact them. Give them a call. They're going to set up a discovery co-interview, if you will, finding out if they're a good fit for you. This is an individual that has worked with small businesses all the way up to CEOs, nonprofits, and everywhere in between. Really has come up with a pattern of identifying what problems exist in your company that you may not even see, and he's able to help you through it. And more importantly, to motivate your team. Engage with your team, make them want to come to work, and as we all know, that's important in any company. Once again, that is Engage Executive Groups, located right here in Broomfield, Colorado. This is Gary Atensu with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.